I should have poisoned you a long time ago.
Stop there.
In the bustling city of Lagos, where the noise of the markets never sleeps and the skyscrapers touch the clouds, there lived a man named Chief Thomas. Chief Thomas was not just a rich man, he was an institution. He owned half the real estate in the city, 3 shipping companies, and oil blocks that pumped black gold day and night. He lived in a mansion that looked like a palace. It had marble floors imported from Italy, chandeliers that sparkled like diamonds, and a garage filled with cars that cost more than most people earned in a lifetime. To the outside world, Chief Thomas was the luckiest man alive. He had power, he had respect, and he had a family. But inside the walls of that golden palace, Chief Thomas was the poorest man on earth. He was 70 years old now. His hair was white, his walk was slower, and his heart was heavy. As he sat on his balcony overlooking the vast estate, he didn't feel pride. He felt fear. A deep, cold fear that kept him awake at night. He knew his time on earth was coming to an end, but he was tormented by one question. Does my family love me, or do they only love my pocket? Chief Thomas had a wife, Madame Beatrice. In her youth, she was the beauty of the village, the flower that every man wanted to pluck. But 40 years of extreme wealth had turned her heart into stone. Beatrice was a woman who worshipped money. She measured respect by the price tag on a handbag. To her, Chief Thomas was not a husband to be cherished. He was a bank vault to be looted. They had 2 sons together. The first was Victor. Victor was a businessman, or so he claimed. He wore sharp suits and drove fast cars, but he had never built anything of his own. He simply managed his father's companies, waiting impatiently for the day he would take over the throne. He was arrogant, rude to the staff, and obsessed with status. The second son was Paul. Paul was the baby of the house, and Beatrice had spoiled him rotten. At 30 years old, Paul still had no job. He spent his nights in nightclubs, popping champagne that cost millions, surrounded by fake friends who only liked him for his father's surname. But there was a third son, Daniel. Daniel was different. He was the son of Chief Thomas's second wife, a humble woman who had died years ago. Daniel did not live in the mansion. He lived in a small apartment on the mainland. He was a primary school teacher. He drove a battered old Toyota. While Victor and Paul wore Gucci and Versace, Daniel wore simple shirts and trousers. The family mocked him. Beatrice called him the monk because he refused to join their extravagant lifestyle. The cracks in the family began to show on a humid Sunday afternoon. It was Chief Thomas's 70th birthday. The dining table was set with a feast fit for a king. Beatrice sat at the other end of the table, scrolling through her phone, barely looking at her husband. Victor was complaining loudly about a business deal, and Paul was nursing a hangover behind dark sunglasses. "Happy birthday, Father," Victor said, without smiling. "By the way, the contract for the new hotel needs your signature. I need 500 million naira released by Monday." "And Dad," Paul chimed in, chewing on a piece of chicken. "I crashed the Porsche last night. I need a replacement. I was thinking of a Ferrari this time." Chief Thomas looked at them. Not a card, not a gift, not a hug, just demands. Then the door opened. Daniel walked in. He looked out of place in the fancy room. He held a small, wrapped box. "Happy birthday, Papa," Daniel said, his eyes warm. He walked over and hugged the old man tight. Beatrice sneered. "You are late, Daniel. Did your little car break down again?" Daniel ignored her. He handed the gift to his father. Chief Thomas opened it. It wasn't a gold watch or a diamond ring. It was a photo album. Daniel had spent weeks collecting old pictures of Chief Thomas from his youth, pictures of him building his first shop, pictures of him laughing with old friends. "I thought you might like to remember the journey," Daniel said softly. Chief Thomas smiled, touching the photos. It was the best gift he had received in years. But Beatrice laughed. "Pictures? Can pictures pay bills?" "Really, Daniel, you are an embarrassment to this family." That night, pretending to be asleep in his study, Chief Thomas heard Beatrice talking to Victor in the hallway. "The old man is getting weak," Beatrice whispered. "We need to make sure the will is signed. I don't want that bastard Daniel getting a single kobo. When Thomas dies, we sell everything and move to London." "Don't worry, Mama," Victor replied. "I have the lawyers ready. Once he kicks the bucket, the empire is ours." Hearing those words, Chief Thomas made a decision. He wiped a tear from his eye and picked up his phone. He dialed a number. "Dr. Williams," he said, his voice shaking. "And Lawyer Henderson. Come to my house immediately. I have a plan." 3 days later, panic swept through the mansion. Chief Thomas had collapsed. The ambulance sirens wailed as he was rushed to the most expensive private hospital in the city. He lay in the VIP ward, hooked up to machines that beeped rhythmically. He wore an oxygen mask. His skin looked pale, thanks to a little makeup. He looked like a man standing at death's door. Beatrice, Victor, and Paul rushed into the room. They looked worried, but not for him. "Doctor," Beatrice shouted, "what is happening? Is he gone?" Dr. Williams, a calm man with grey hair, shook his head. "He is in a coma. His heart is failing. I am afraid he has only a few days left." Beatrice covered her mouth to hide a smile. Victor exchanged a look with Paul. The moment was here. Just then, Lawyer Henderson stepped forward. He held a thick file in his hands. "I have asked you all to come here," the lawyer said solemnly, "because there is a crisis." "Crisis?" Victor asked. "What crisis? Is it about the inheritance?" "In a way," the lawyer said. He took a deep breath. "As you know, the economy has been terrible. Chief Thomas made some very risky investments recently to try and double the family fortune. Unfortunately, the deals failed. All of them." Beatrice's eyes went wide. "What do you mean, failed?" "I mean," the lawyer continued, "Chief Thomas is bankrupt." The room went dead silent. You could hear a pin drop. "Bankrupt?" Paul screamed. "That's a lie. He is a billionaire." "Not anymore," the lawyer lied smoothly. "The banks have seized the accounts. The mansion is being foreclosed tomorrow. The cars are being towed as we speak. In fact, Chief Thomas owes over 2 billion naira in debt. Anyone who inherits his estate inherits his debt." The reaction was instant. "Debt?" Beatrice shrieked. "I didn't sign up for debt. I am an old woman. I cannot pay billions." "The hospital bill alone is 5 million naira for this week," the lawyer added. "Since the accounts are frozen, the family must pay it from their personal pockets. Who will volunteer?" Beatrice stepped back from the bed as if Chief Thomas had a contagious disease. She looked at the man she had married, the man who gave her everything, with pure disgust. "I have no money," Beatrice spat. "I have to secure my own future. If he was foolish enough to lose his money, he can suffer the consequences alone." "But Mama," Daniel spoke up. He had been standing in the corner, crying silently for his father. "He is your husband. He is sick." "He is a failure," Beatrice shouted. "Come, Victor. Come, Paul. We need to go to the house and take whatever jewelry we can hide before the bank arrives. I am leaving this sinking ship." Victor looked at his dying father. "Sorry, old man. Business is business. I can't let your debt ruin my reputation." Paul checked his phone. "I'm out too. I can't be seen with a broke father. It's bad for my brand." And just like that, the wife and the 2 sons walked out of the door. They didn't look back. They didn't say goodbye. They left him to die alone. The door closed. The room was quiet. The lawyer looked at Daniel. "Well, Daniel," the lawyer said, "your brothers have gone. Your stepmother has gone. There is no money. The hospital is demanding payment. What will you do?" Daniel wiped his tears. He walked to the bedside and held his father's hand. "He is not a bank account to me," Daniel whispered. "He is my father." "But the debt?" the lawyer asked. "I don't care about the debt," Daniel said firmly. "I have a small apartment. It's not much, but it's home. I will sell my car to pay the hospital deposit. I will take a loan from the teachers' cooperative to buy his medicine. As long as I have breath in my body, my father will not suffer." Daniel leaned down and kissed Chief Thomas's forehead. "Don't worry, Papa. I am here. Let's go home." Under the oxygen mask, Chief Thomas's eyes remained closed, but his heart was beating fast. He had found his answer. He had found the truth. The next few weeks were a nightmare for Daniel, but he bore it with grace. He moved Chief Thomas into his small 2-bedroom apartment. The roof leaked when it rained. The neighbors played loud music. It was a far cry from the mansion. Chief Thomas continued his act. He pretended to be paralyzed, unable to walk or speak clearly. He lay in Daniel's bed while Daniel slept on the sofa. Daniel became a nurse. He woke up at 4 a.m. to cook porridge. He fed his father with a spoon. He bathed him. He cleaned him. One evening, Daniel came home looking exhausted. He had walked 10 miles from work because he had sold his car. He sat by the bed, holding a small bottle of medicine. "I got your medicine, Papa." Daniel smiled weakly. "The pharmacist said this one is very strong. You will get better." Chief Thomas watched him. He saw the holes in Daniel's shoes. He saw the dark circles under his eyes. And yet Daniel was smiling. "Daniel," Chief Thomas whispered, keeping his voice shaky. "Why do you do this? I have nothing to give you. I am a burden." Daniel shook his head. "You gave me life, Papa. You sent me to school. When I was a boy and I fell from the bicycle, you carried me. Now it is my turn to carry you." That is what family does. 2 days later, the door to the apartment was banged loudly. Bang, bang, bang. Daniel opened it to find Beatrice, Victor, and Paul standing there. They looked angry. "Where is it?" Beatrice screamed, pushing past Daniel. "Where is what?" Daniel asked. "The gold Rolex," Victor shouted. "We know the old man had it on his wrist when he left the mansion. It's the only thing of value left. We need to sell it." "You want to sell his watch?" Daniel asked, shocked. "But that was a gift from his grandfather." "Who cares?" Paul spat. "We are broke. The bank took the house. We are staying in a cheap hotel. Give us the watch." Beatrice walked over to where Chief Thomas was sitting in a wheelchair by the window. She looked at him with pure hatred. "Look at you," she hissed. "You useless man. You wasted my life. I should have poisoned you years ago." She grabbed the watch from the side table. "We are taking this, and don't expect us to come to your funeral. We won't waste money on a coffin." As they turned to leave, laughing at their victory, a voice cut through the air. Stop. It wasn't Daniel's voice. It was deep. It was powerful. It was the voice of a lion. Beatrice froze. She turned around. Chief Thomas was standing up. He wasn't shaking. He wasn't bent over. He stood tall, his eyes burning with fire. He reached up and pulled the oxygen tube off his face and threw it on the floor. "Papa?" Daniel gasped. "You," Beatrice stammered. "You can walk?" "I can walk," Chief Thomas roared. "I can talk, and I can see clearly now." He pulled out his smartphone from his pocket. "I recorded everything. I recorded you leaving me at the hospital. I recorded you stealing my furniture. And I just recorded you saying you wished you had poisoned me. But the bankruptcy?" Victor stuttered. "The debt?" "There is no debt." Chief Thomas laughed, but there was no humour in it. "I am worth 50 billion naira. I possess land you have never seen. I have gold you will never touch." Beatrice's knees went weak. She dropped the watch. "Thomas, honey, it was a joke. We were just stressed." "Get out!" Chief Thomas screamed, pointing at the door. "You are not my family. You are vultures, and I am done feeding you." The silence in the small apartment was deafening after the greedy trio had fled. The door swung shut, leaving the smell of their expensive perfume mixed with the stale air of defeat. Daniel stood frozen, looking at his father, a man he thought was dying 10 minutes ago, now standing like a titan in the small room. "Papa!" Daniel stammered, tears of confusion and relief streaming down his face. "I don't understand. Why? Why did you put yourself through this?" Chief Thomas walked over and placed both hands on Daniel's shoulders. His eyes were filled with a warmth that Daniel had not seen since he was a child. "Because, my son," Chief Thomas said, his voice thick with emotion, "I built an empire of gold, but I realized I had built a family of straw. When the wind blew, they collapsed. But you were the rock." He pulled Daniel into a tight embrace. "Forgive me for testing you, but I had to know that when I leave this world, my legacy would be in hands that know how to love, not just hands that know how to grab." Chief Thomas looked around the tiny, peeling apartment. "Come along, Daniel. Get your things. We are going home. The real home." 1 week later, the family was summoned to the grand mahogany office of lawyer Henderson. The atmosphere was tense. Chief Thomas sat at the head of the table, looking healthy and sharp in a new tailored suit. Daniel sat beside him, looking uncomfortable in the luxury surroundings. Beatrice, Victor, and Paul sat on the other side. They looked pathetic. They were wearing the same clothes from last week because the bank had locked their wardrobes. Their arrogance was gone, replaced by desperate fear. They hoped, against all odds, that the old man might have mercy. Lawyer Henderson opened a leather folder. "Before Chief Thomas's illness," the lawyer began, "his will stated that his estate would be divided equally among his wife and 3 sons. Beatrice let out a sigh of relief. Maybe there was hope. "However," the lawyer continued, his voice turning ice cold, "last night a new will was drafted and signed." He adjusted his glasses and began to read. "To my wife, Beatrice. You promised to love me in sickness and in health, for richer or for poorer. You failed both tests. You loved my money, not me. Therefore, I leave you the sum of 50,000 naira, enough to buy a bus ticket back to your father's village, where you can start again." Beatrice gasped. 50,000? That won't even buy a pair of shoes. "To my sons, Victor and Paul," the lawyer continued, ignoring her outburst. "You saw your father as a bank account. When you thought the bank was empty, you abandoned it. I leave you each 1 gold coin. Keep it to remember that loyalty is worth more than gold." Victor slammed his fist on the table. "This is illegal. We will sue." "You have no money for lawyers," Chief Thomas said calmly. "Sit down." The lawyer turned the page. He looked at Daniel, and finally, "To my son Daniel, the son who cared for me when I had nothing to offer but burdens, the son who sold his only car to buy my medicine. To you, Daniel, I leave everything." The room went silent. The Thomas Group of companies, the oil blocks, the shipping fleet, the real estate portfolio, and the mansion on the hill. It is all yours, effective immediately. Daniel was stunned. He shook his head. "Papa, I don't want it. It's too much. I am just a teacher." Chief Thomas smiled. "That is exactly why you are worthy of it. You will not use the money to buy fast cars and fake friends. You will use it to build schools, to help the poor, and to do good. You are the CEO now, Daniel." A year passed. The Thomas empire flourished under Daniel's leadership. He was a different kind of billionaire. He treated his staff with respect. He built hospitals in poor areas. He still drove a modest car, though it was newer than his old Toyota. Chief Thomas lived happily in the mansion, spending his final years watching his true son make him proud. As for Beatrice, Victor, and Paul, life taught them a bitter lesson. Beatrice returned to her village, where she had to work on a small farm to survive. Her designer skin faded under the hot sun. Victor and Paul, unable to find work because of their arrogance, ended up living in the same small, run-down apartment that Daniel used to rent. Every time they paid the rent, they remembered the brother they used to mock. The story tells us this: you can hide your true nature when times are good, but the storms of life will always reveal who you really are. Greed is a seed that grows only thorns, but kindness is a tree that bears fruit forever.